I've been in the life insurance business for only 3 years. This past year, I personally sold over $250,000 in premium while running an agency, which resulted in a take-home income of about $150,000 in profit. In this video, I want to talk about the 3 things that your prospect needs to be absolutely sold on before you ask for the sale, or else you won't close. So by the end of this video, you'll have a deeper understanding of how the sales process works, how to overcome objections before they come up, and in turn, you'll be able to close more deals and make more money. So I just got off of it was about a 6-hour live one-on-one coaching session with one of our new guys, our newer agents. And he did a great job. I mean, he's super new. And he actually reached out to me saying, hey, I'm really trying here, but I just feel like I'm struggling, especially with objections at the end of the call. It's like I get really, really close, but then for whatever reason, at the very end, I lose it. So I said, okay, let's do this. As long as you hit these certain requirements, I'm going to go ahead and just spend a full day with you, right? Just a full, at least a 6-hour session where we're just dialing together, and let's see what happens. And what we found was actually, it's something I wasn't really expecting. See, I thought, or I assumed, because he was new, that maybe we were going to be struggling a lot with just keeping people on the phone. We actually found that his conversation rate, or the amount of people that he was able to keep on the phone and present to them, was actually extraordinarily high, especially for a new agent. So that wasn't the problem at all. What we found is he just wasn't closing. And after 6 hours together, we were able to figure out why. Now, the funny thing about this agent in particular, though, is that he's done sales in the past in a different industry. It used to be in like landscaping or something of that nature. And so when I find that out, I ask him, hey, well, how did you do it there, right? Like, why do you feel like this is so different than what you used to do over there? And he starts to try to explain the difference. He says, well, over there, we used to do that. We used to do this. The lead used to come in, and then I would just have to ask a few questions to kind of see what they wanted things to look like. I would try to uncover kind of like what they could probably afford so that I can pitch the right package to them. And then he'd start saying things like, and it was the same as here where like, I would basically have to ask these questions before I can quote them, or else, it would never really fall through. So we did this and we did that. He just kept on going. And as I'm watching him explain this to me, I see in his face how little by little he starts to just come to this realization of, what the hell am I talking about? It is the exact same freaking thing. And that's the conclusion that he ends up falling on, is actually it's not that different at all. I don't know why I'm overcomplicating this, right? Why I'm overthinking this. And after that, it got me thinking, like, I just think we make this whole thing way more complicated than it needs to be. And as I'm kind of like, meditating on this thought, it actually brings me back to a book that I read actually not too long ago, to be honest with you. It's called The Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. You might be familiar with him as the Wolf of Wall Street. One of my favorite movies ever, by the way. I love that freaking movie.
Will not hang up the phone until their client either buys or fucking dies!
And so in that book, which by the way, if you've watched the movie, the book is like nothing like the movie, just so you know. They're like completely different. It's actually a really, really good book. I learned a ton from it. And I remember Jordan Belfort saying in that book, every sale is the same. And I don't think I ever really fully agreed with that until today. Till today, when we had that conversation, I realized, holy shit, he's absolutely right. Every sale is the freaking same. Every sale is exactly the same. And it really just comes down to 3 things. 3 basic things that if your prospect is not absolutely certain and sold on these 3 things by the time that you ask for the sale, it's not going to close. Right? It's just not going to happen. And so every single statement that you make in a presentation and question that you ask should only ever help to make your prospect more certain about these 3 things. Anything else, anything that's not doing that, is absolute garbage and a waste of breath. And the beauty in this is that once you're aware of it, like I said, you'll have a better understanding of how to overcome objections before they come up. Because when a prospect does give you objections, it's never the concern that they say that it is. Because every single objection that your prospect throws at you is really a smokescreen. The true concern is only ever that they are not sold on one of these 3 things. All right, so these are the 3 things that your prospect needs to be absolutely certain about before you can ask for the sale. It's the product, the person, and the company. All right, so let me give you an example of how this plays out. One of the presentations that I got to hear with this new agent was a presentation where he was doing really, really well. I actually wasn't there for this one. We were actually playing a recording, but he felt like he was doing really, really well. He took the prospect from the beginning of the call all the way to the end, did the application, got the social security number, everything that we needed. When he got to asking for the bank account information, that's where the client drew the line. They were not going to give that out. The agent tried to, overcome the objection, but couldn't get it in the end, and they ended up going their separate ways. So this agent is describing how the conversation went, right, and how he tried to overcome the rebuttal. His assumption was that the prospect didn't trust him, which is a fair assumption, right? The prospect says,
hey, I don't want to give you my bank account. I don't want to get scammed.
XYZ. That was a response. So our agent goes, hey, that's not a problem. I totally understand. And basically tries to convince the prospect that, hey, I'm a very trustworthy person. Here's my, NPN number. Here's all my information. And believe me, if anything were to happen with your, with your information, I would lose my job, and I take this job too serious for that. I really am someone that you can trust, basically, right? It's kind of, that's the approach that he was taking. And the prospect responded with,
I don't know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this local place here tomorrow and see if I can get an option there. And see if I can quote there and see what that's like. How about I call you back on, Monday or whatever?
And our agent goes, okay, that's not a problem. What time do you want to call me back on Monday? And then they set the appointment that, of course, the prospect never showed up to. Now, here's the thing. Before I disclose the feedback that I gave him, I want you to take a second and try and figure out if you, can catch anything from what just happened. Anything that maybe exposes the true objection. All right, I want you to just take a second and think about what it really might be. So I don't know if you caught on to it, but what I heard based on what he just told me is that the prospect's concern was never really even the trust. Like, that wasn't really the main problem here. The real reason that he didn't end up making the sale was because the prospect just wasn't completely sold on it. Now, here's the thing. I already knew that before he explained the whole thing to me because of just some other conversations that I heard him having, before. But what validated that for me was the fact that at the very end, remember that after Jose gives all his information and reassures him that he's legitimate and all this stuff, the prospect responded with, well, I'm just going to go to this place and get another quote. He wasn't satisfied with the plan. He just wasn't sold on it. There was something missing. There was a missing piece, but he just wasn't absolutely sold on it. It was a product for him. That was the problem. It wasn't the person so much as the product, which is why, according to this script, what he was supposed to say was, hey, let's just put that aside for a moment, right? I totally understand, acknowledge it. I totally understand. I get it. We're strangers. You've never met me before. Let's put that aside for a moment. Is this even really something that you'd want to have? All right. Then you get them to admit yes, or to repeat them to themselves. Yes, this is something that I want to have. Okay, but I guess why though? Like, what about this whole thing do you like? Okay, so that gets them to focus on the parts of the plan that they do like. Right, so that way they put themselves back into a positive frame or positive state of mind. It gets them to vocalize that, yes, this is something that I want. It gets them to explain why they want it so that they admit it and convince themselves again. And it gets you back into the conversation so that you can find the real concern, the true internal concern that they have that's causing them to not want to move forward, so that it can be addressed, fixed, and overcome. Now, I promised you that by the end of this video, you'd be able to use this information to overcome objections before they come up. So how do we do that? Well, see, the problem with this conversation isn't that he didn't know how to overcome the objection. I mean, that is one issue, but the real issue, or like, I guess we can say the root of it all, is that he clearly missed something in the presentation itself. Because again, the prospect just wasn't sold by the time that he got there. She wasn't sold on the product. So in order for you to overcome those objections before they come up, you've got to sell them on those three things. So let's start with the product. How do you sell them on the product? Hey, what's up guys? Really quick, if you're liking this video even remotely, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I want to know that this stuff is valuable, because honestly, if it's not, I don't want to do it. Right? There's enough BS information out there. I don't want to be one to add to that. So if you're liking any of this stuff, let me know so that I can keep pumping it out. So let's start with the product. How do you sell them on the plan itself? Well, look, they're already on the phone with you talking about insurance. So clearly it's something that they, at least at some point, acknowledged that they wanted and that they needed it. But why haven't they already made the decision to buy one? Because life insurance is an emotional sale. It's not one that's very much based on logic. I mean, it can be, but let me give you an example. I have a term policy. I'm 26 years old. What are the real chances that I'm gonna die within the next, now I think I have like 25 years left or something like that. What are the chances that I am gonna die in the next 25 years? I mean, it's obviously possible, but realistically, it's not very high if you base it on like, let's say numbers and averages. Because on average, I'm supposed to pass away when I'm like 82 or something like that. I forgot what the number is now, but I'm more likely to die at that age than I am within the next, 25 years or so. So why do I get it? Why do I continue to pay for it? Because of that small chance, that what if. What if I do pass away within the next 25 years? What would that do to Alyssa? Where would that leave my family? Look, guys, realistically, I'm more likely to live past those years than I am to die. And I also know the statistic, not a very high percentage of term policies pay out, but I chose to purchase it because of the what if, the small chance that could lead to large consequences that I just don't want to risk. It's an emotional decision. It's an emotional buy. So especially when you're talking about life insurance, emotions need to be at an all-time high in order for someone to get uncomfortable enough to decide to change, right? And move forward with making that decision. So where am I going with this? Basically what I'm saying is that if you want to sell your prospect on the product itself, on the plan itself, on the idea of protecting their family in the case of a loss, then you need to strongly emphasize their pain points. You need to strongly get them to vocalize, and admit where they currently are, where they've been, where they are, and where they want to be. Those three things need to be hit on. Hey, where are you now, right? Do we have any insurance? Do we have any savings they can rely on? Okay, no. Okay, well, how long have you been looking for this? Have you had any in the past? If you have, what happened to that? If you haven't, well, what's been stopping you from getting it for so long? Those are questions that we want to know, to get them to vocalize and convince themselves that it's time to make a decision. We cannot keep putting this off longer. Then we talk about where they want to be. But now when we address that happens more in the way of, well, what would happen if you don't have this? Right? So it's more consequential than anything. It's, well, what happens if we, what if you do pass away, you have nothing in place? What happens then? Hey, why is this so important to you? Why is it so important for you to make sure that there's some kind of protection in place? Would they be able to handle it themselves, or would that be difficult for them to do? And why does that matter to you so much? Okay, so it's those type of questions that get them to sell themselves on the product and why they really need it. And if you're not asking those questions, and if you're not making them uncomfortable enough to change, then you're not going to get the sale. Because people don't change until there's a reason to change, until they're uncomfortable enough to where they realize they need to make a change. People don't take their, let's say for example, fitness goals super serious until one day they wake up, they look at themselves in the mirror and say, oh my God, how did I get here? It's not until then, or until their doctor says, hey, listen, if you keep this up, you're not going to live very long and you're not going to have that much time with your kids. It's not until those things happen, something that just makes them uncomfortable enough to go and say, hey, I'm going to stop messing around. Let me do what I have to do. That's when people change. And that's the sort of emotional state that you need to get your prospect to in order to truly buy into the product. Okay, so long story short, get them to vocalize and admit and convince themselves on why they really need it. Number two, the person. They need to be sold on you. They need to like you. They need to trust you. Look, you might trust somebody, but if you don't like them for whatever reason, if they're just not someone you like to be around or you want to have, around for the rest of your life, you're not going to give them your money. Both of those two things have to be intact. They got to like you. They got to trust you. If they like you, but they don't trust you, it's kind of like, I love my mom. I absolutely love her. Am I going to ask her for business advice? No. Right? I don't trust that she'll be able to guide me in that direction. Right? So as much as I like her, if she tries to give me business advice, I'm not going to take it because it's, no offense, mom, I love you. But it's one example, right? That was kind of a mean example. I'm sorry, mom, I love you. But now let's go vice versa. If you do trust someone, but you don't like them for whatever reason, well, you're just going to go and try to find someone else who, you do like. I can actually tell you that right now I'm going through this thing where there's this person that I trust can get a result done for I'm not going to say what it is, but it's something in our business. There's this person that I know can help us get the result, but I don't like how they work. They're just, I don't like being around them. I'd rather go somewhere else. I don't want that around me for my own peace of mind. Right? I just don't. So both of those things have to be intact, right? Like, trust. Now, how do you get them to like and trust you? Well, I have a whole nother video called, I think it's called How to Read the Script or something like that, where I talk about building rapport with your prospect, which that's what that is. Building rapport is essentially just getting your prospect to like and trust you. A couple ways to do that, or just show them that you care. As you go through the script, as you go through your presentation, and they're giving you responses, give real human acknowledgments to their responses, right? Be conversational as you go along. I'm not telling you to waste 20, 30 minutes talking about dogs and cats. What I am saying is to just be freaking human, man. Look, how about this? Here's an example of how you shouldn't sound.
So, Mr. Johnson, is this just for you or is it for you and a spouse?
Oh, it's just for me.
Okay. Do you have any life insurance?
No, I don't.
Okay. And are you looking to be buried or cremated?
Well, I want to be buried.
All right. And who would your beneficiary be?
I mean, just like that scripted, where that kind of back, like that sounds more like an interrogation than it does a conversation. As opposed to if you are having a real conversation with them as you go along, this is what that sounds like.
Mr. Johnson, do you have any active life insurance?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, how long have you been, looking for this sort of thing or looking to get this done?
It's been a couple years.
Oh, a couple of years? What's going on? What's making it so hard for you to find something that's, that you feel is right for you? Or I guess what's getting in the way of you getting something started?
Okay, so see how I ask one question, he answers, and then I ask another question that relates to the last one to get him to open up further, right? So that way I get a true understanding of what's going on. And it's more conversational that way. I'm not just moving from question to question to question. I'm going layers deep, right? And in that video that I referred to, I talk about going 4 questions deep. That's general, like just a rule of thumb, just 4 questions deep will usually get your prospect to open up pretty well. Here's another example. This one just way more generic. Let's say you ask someone whether or not they have kids. All right, that's one question. They're gonna say yes or no. Very surface level, which is fine. It's a surface level question, so you're gonna get a surface level answer. The problem with a lot of agents is that they just stay stuck there. They only ask surface level questions. Okay, well, what if next I ask, okay, cool, how many kids do you have? Now that becomes a more open-ended question. That could be 2, it could be 5, it could be 20, right? But now I'm gonna get a clearer picture of, you know, what this looks like, what the family looks like. Not enough for me to really do anything with it, but we're getting somewhere. Do you have kids? How many kids do you have? Then we go a third layer deep. Well, have any of your kids maybe giving you, any grandkids? Are we there yet? All right, so now you got a bigger picture, right? You're seeing the whole family. And then the fourth question, which this right here is where the deep connection is always made. It could be something like, it sounds like you have a beautiful family. How often do you get to, see each other and really spend time with them? Or you can ask something like, well, what do you guys do when you spend time together, right? When the whole family gets together, what's that like? So you can see how that takes you from a very surface level question and answer to now we're getting the full picture of what the family looks like. We're getting into a more emotional side of this person and how they love their family and how they treat their family and that sort of thing. And that's just a generic example of, asking questions. You can do that inside of your presentation in order to truly get your prospects to open up. And it ends up being like a double positive, because when you show genuine interest in your prospect, they start to like you more because, you're having a human to human conversation, and they also trust you because now they can feel like you're looking out for their best interests. Now, also another thing that you can do as a life insurance agent over the phone, because trust really is important, is just as like a cherry on top, humanizing yourself a bit more by maybe like send them a photo of yourself. I know that might sound weird when I say it like that, but like, for example, we have these professional kind of like digital business cards. I mean, they're easy to make, they're free to make, and we actually have like our own website that we use. But you can do this on, for example, you can use like Blink. That's what I used to use. Just Google it if you don't know what that is. As a very basic, easy, and free way to just send out some form of digital business card. They can see your face, which that humanizes you, because now they see a face to the. They add a face to the voice. Is that how you say it? I don't know. But now they can see a clearer picture, right, of the person that they're speaking with. And then maybe you can add like a picture of your license in there or something, right? Which adds a little bit more credibility. Now, does that do the whole trick? Absolutely not, right? But maybe it's a little cherry on top that you can add. It is something that we have in our process. So that's how you sell them on you, right? You get them to like you. You get them to trust you. You do that by showing genuine interest throughout the conversation, and possibly even just, adding credibility through, sending out a picture, sending out license information, so that they can see that you're a real person and that you're a legitimately, licensed life insurance agent. And number 3, they've got to be sold on the company. So whether you are a captive agent selling for one company or a broker selling for multiple, whatever insurance company or carrier that you're planning to place them with, you've got to talk up the company. You've got to let them know why they're special, or why you're wanting to place them with them, or why they're better than their competition in some way, shape, or form. Now, do you need to spend 20 minutes on this? Absolutely not. At most, a few seconds is what we do. Right? It really doesn't take much. And I do want to emphasize that in no world should you interpret what I'm saying here as, hey, I want you to spend the next 10 minutes just talking up your company and make this whole conversation about you and your company. No. They don't actually care about you or your company. They just want to know that you and the company are going to do what you're promising it's going to do. It's just got to be enough for that. So let's say, for example, if you're a captive agent, it's even easier for you because you only have one company that you need to study on and, talk about its benefits and so on. If you're a broker and you've got multiple carriers, you've got some homework to do. But what are some ways that you can talk up the company, right? Like, how do you even do that? Well, just whatever benefits to it that you can think of, just say it out loud. Let's say, for example, has the company that you're placing them with, has it been around since 1910? Well, then you could say, hey, and by the way, I'm placing you here because they've been around for over 100 years. I want to make sure we put your money somewhere safe and secure. Are they known for, maybe they just have the best or the most affordable rates in the market? Well, then say that, hey, the reason we're placing you here is because you're on Social Security. I know affordability is really important to you, and they're giving us the best bang for our buck. They're allowing us to cut your family a bigger check for less money on your part. Do they have friendly rates for smokers? Maybe they're like a guaranteed issue, or it's maybe like a graded plan. So this policy has like an easy approval process. They accept people with serious health concerns. And say that, hey, we're placing you here because they have an easy approval process, which makes it more likely that we can take care of you today, right? So that you never have to think about this ever again. Maybe the carrier donates to a specific charity, or maybe the carrier offers some kind of concierge service, some funeral concierge service, like Sequoia, Everest, FCGS, whatever makes that company stand out, just say it out loud, right? So, and if you don't know any of these things, then just do your homework, take a few days and read up, ask ChatGPT. To be honest, that's actually what I did. Ask ChatGPT, right? And then obviously I verified a lot of the answers because actually not all of them were completely accurate, but it gave me a place to start. Then I wrote them into our script, right? That's how I did it. That's how you can do it. So that way they're not only bought into the product, not only bought into the person, right, to you as the agent, but they also buy into the company. They understand, hey, okay, awesome. I appreciate that Kevin is placing me with this company. They're the best company for what I'm looking for because of X, Y, and Z. And again, this one specifically, you don't want to spend a lot of time on, just a few seconds. Don't list 1,000 different freaking benefits. Just list a few, maybe like the top 3 that are relevant to them. Like that's it. Or maybe even just one really big benefit if you feel like it's that valuable. So if you do all of that throughout your presentation, you've got them to buy into the product, you've got them to buy into the person, you as the agent, and into the company, there is no reason that they shouldn't move forward with you at the very end. If they do give an objection, if they say they need to think about it, they need to talk with their spouse about it, they don't want to give you bank account information, whatever it might be, just know that more than likely you probably missed one of them, which is okay. If you find yourself in that predicament, all you have to do is when they give you the objection, you acknowledge it, or you say, hey, I totally understand. That's a smart idea. Talk to your spouse, talk to your kids. I get it. We just met. You don't want to give me information, whatever it is. Acknowledge it. And the easiest, more universal way to overcome any of those objections is to just go, let's just put that aside for a second. Is this even really something that you'd want to have? And then when they say yes, you go, okay, well, why? What about this do you like the most? Or, well, why though? Like, why do you think it's so important? Why do you think this is necessary to do for your family? Whatever, but you get them to vocalize the need again, right? And convince themselves that, hey, I need to make this decision now. And if you do this properly, if you just sell them on those 3 things, you will never lose a sale again.